When discussing university education in the UK, the debate often erupts around its cost, about the accessibility, who can go to university, and the ultimate value. Tuition fees, which have climbed from, yes, £1,000 in 1998 to now 9,250 and increasing to 9,535. The question is still pressing: is university worth the effort and the money? For many students, the financial burden of universities is now synonymous with a lifetime of debt. And is that worth it? Current reforms mean graduates repay loans into their 60s, with 65% expected to pay back in full post-reform, up to 27%. And critics argue that the fees don't align with the value, and that the repayment process will never actually recoup the investment, that the majority of students will never repay the loans, and yet the majority of students will still feel this burden on their back for the rest of their lives. Humanities students, for example, often have minimal contact hours compared to STEM counterparts, yet they pay the same amount of money. The uniform fee structure fails to reflect the varied costs of teaching. A classic student, for example, reading Homer or Hesiod in a dusty library shouldn't be subsidising a chemistry student working in an expensive laboratory. Peter Mandelson, speaking for Universities UK, suggests increasing fees to stabilise a sector losing £2,500 per domestic student. He's right, yet a one-size-fits-all increase exacerbates inequalities that already exist. The Australian model, where tuition fees vary by module cost and projected economic benefit, offers an alternative. It balances student choice with fairness, charging more for resource-heavy courses while recognising the differing returns on investment between degrees. But maybe we aren't thinking about degrees in a realistic and reasonable way. We think of degrees as something you put money into one slot hole and it comes out the other. But that isn't actually how education works. Education is, I like to think of it as university and education in general as a house or a palace, and there are various doors that offer you entry. Those doors could be English literature, classics, chemistry, physics, maths. Ideally, it doesn't matter what subject you're studying. Knitting should give you the same core skills as a STEM subject. The fact that it doesn't means that the teaching of a knitting course has gone wrong. That the knitting tutors are more concerned with the knitting pattern than they are with the skill set of how to write an essay, how to manage material, how to deal with primary and secondary sources, how to be critical of the information that you are looking at, and how to be able to adapt those skills that you have acquired to other meaningful pursuits in later life. Because in the end, a university education is about providing students with the ability to adapt, not with a core pile of facts. And we've got students today are managing far more facts than we used to when I was a student. In fact, the amount of facts are astonishing. And a lot of that is to do with the methodology, which starts with GCSE, amplifies with A level, and then becomes rampant with university, as if more facts mean a better education. More facts don't. What is a better education is better understanding of that methodology. The value of a degree depends on its contribution to employability. In other words, it depends on adaptability. STEM graduates today consistently out-earn their humanities counterparts, but there's no reason for that. With degrees in fields like medicine and engineering, of course, those aren't so much degrees as training, often yielding a higher return on investment. Yes, Meanwhile, Mickey Mouse degrees, a derisive term for courses seen as offering little career benefit, aid the deriders, aid the detractors, and add to the perception that university isn't worth it. It isn't, because those Mickey Mouse degrees haven't mastered the basic understanding of what they're doing. As the columnist Quentin Letts once quipped, some degrees are the educational equivalent of sunbathing on a lilo. Nice while it lasts, but unsteady once you hit real life. This isn't to dismiss the importance of the arts and humanities. I wouldn't. I think the arts and humanities are essential. These fields foster critical thinking, creativity, cultural preservation. Without them, our civilization is worthless. Classics, for instance, doesn't just churn out archaeologists, but contributes to fields like law, politics, journalism, the church. But the proliferation of non-vocational degrees could arguably dilute their job market impact. If everyone has a degree, does it hold the same value? As Gilbert and Sullivan said, if everyone is somebody, then no one's anybody. International students who pay upwards of £40,000 annually now account for 20% of UK universities' funding and up to 40% for some institutions. Their fees effectively subsidise domestic students, raising ethical and economic questions about our over-reliance on global enrolment, particularly when the government and the Home Office find students such a reliable target for immigration irregularities, knowing that they can send a student home on the assumption that they will sort out the £20 here, £20 there, which was a shortfall of some regulation, and be back next year. And if anything, they'll have to enrol for a further year to complete the time that was to catch up on the stuff that was missed because of the irregularity. It's a win-win situation for the Home Office, but it belittles the foreign students, and it's demeaning, I think, for the rest of us. UK universities becoming luxury brands for international elites rather than public institutions serving our own citizens. That's what we need. And when we exploit the international students, first by making them pay more, second by treating them like fodder that can be thrown out when we wish, and then pulled back because we know they're coming back, because we know that they've invested enough that they're going to have to come back. It's a stupid game. It's a game that Theresa May started playing. I remember very clearly calling her out and calling out Andrea Leadsom back in the day, because this is a long game that the Home Office has been playing. University students enrich society. That's the simple reality. They produce research that drives innovation, culture, economic growth, and it doesn't really matter what the subject is. But the current system, where university is seen as some sort of passage to life, is unsustainable. Universities claim they're underfunded, students feel overcharged, taxpayers question the return on the investment. Absolutely. So is university worth it? The answer is both yes and no. For high-demand, well-funded courses with clear job market benefits, the value is demonstrable, undeniable. For others, reform is necessary to ensure fairness, sustainability, and relevance in a rapidly changing economy. It's not about removing those subjects, it's about making sure that they are teaching the methodology that can be adapted later in life. Whether through stratified fees, module-based pricing, or increased funding for vocational training, the UK needs to rethink its approach, because at the moment it's wrong. It can look at other countries and it can say, oh, well, we're doing just what they're doing. Yes, well, they're doing it wrong too. Or they're doing it wrongly. As for those who see students as mere whiners, consider this: without reform, higher education risks becoming a privilege just for the wealthy, a burden for the indebted, a disappointment for the idealistic. If Starmer truly wants to build Britain's future, or rebuild Britain's future, listening to students might be a good place to start.